If you're watching this on YouTube, lean in closely, because the night my family dragged me out of my own home didn't feel like a moment. It felt like a warning, like the universe whispering, "Pay attention. Something darker is coming." I didn't understand that then, but I would. The snowstorm hit Hawthorne Ridge earlier than expected, swallowing the town under layers of white silence. Inside the house I once called mine, that silence shattered like thin glass as my daughter-in-law, Elena, stood in the living room, arms folded, chin lifted, eyes sharp enough to slice bone. "You act like this place belongs to you," she sneered, her voice echoing off the wooden walls. "But it doesn't, Mara. Not anymore. You're just lingering. She said it like I was mold. I clutched the edge of the sofa, the only thing steady in that moment. "This was my home before it was yours," I whispered, trying to keep my breath steady. Elena's lips twisted into a smile that had never reached her eyes. Not once in the 12 years I'd known her. Was, past tense. Behind her, my son David stood by the window, pretending the world outside was more interesting than what he was helping her do. His shoulders hunched, his hands shoved deep into his pockets. The same man who once cried when he scraped his knee now couldn't even look at me. "David?" My voice cracked. "Say something." He didn't. Instead, he picked up my old suitcase, the one with stickers from all the places we traveled together when he was a boy, and tossed it onto the floor. It burst open like a wound, my clothes spilling onto the hardwood. A framed picture of us at the Grand Canyon slid out, the glass snapping clean down the middle. He didn't flinch. He didn't blink. "Mum," he said softly, "this is what's best. The shelter has space. You'll be taken care of." Taken care of. As if I were a stray dog they couldn't keep anymore. Elena bent down, lifted a folded note, and tucked it into my half-open suitcase. "A little something for your new life," she said in a poisonous sing-song voice. I didn't want to open it, but the black marker ink bled through the page. I deserved nothing good from it. David reached for my arm, gently at first, then firmer when I didn't move. "Come on, Mom," he murmured. "Please don't make this harder." Harder for who? My feet dragged across the floor, my slipper soles whispering against polished wood. When they opened the front door, the cold slapped my face so violently it stole my breath. The wind outside didn't care who I was. It had no loyalty, unlike the people behind me. The car ride to the shelter was silent, except for the crunch of snow under the tires. I tried to speak once, tried to remind him of the nights he used to fall asleep on my lap during thunderstorms. How I'd whisper stories until his breath evened out. But he wouldn't meet my eyes. He wouldn't remember Dot when we arrived at St. Bridget's Safe Haven. He dropped my suitcase on the icy steps. The latch popped open again. The note slid out, landing face up on the snow. Those 3 words hit me harder than the cold ever could. "You deserve IT." He didn't even wait for me to pick it up. The car sped away before I reached the door. Just like that, my life ended. Just like that, something new, something terrifying began. But what I didn't know that night was that being thrown into a shelter wouldn't break me. It would lead me to someone whose collapse would change everything. Someone powerful. Someone dying. And someone I would save. The first night in St. Bridget's Safe Haven felt like slipping into someone else's life. A colder, thinner life where the air tasted of disinfectant and forgotten dreams. Rows of metal cots lined the room like a makeshift army of exhaustion. The mattress they assigned me sagged in the middle, smelling faintly of bleach and something I didn't want to identify. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, trying not to hear the man coughing in the corner, or the woman whispering apologies in her sleep. Not for the first time, the question pressed into my ribs like a blade. How did I end up here? Morning came in harsh fluorescent light. Breakfast. A volunteer shouted, and everyone began the slow shuffle toward the cafeteria. The smell of watery oatmeal drifted through the hall. I followed the crowd, my hands shaking from both cold and humiliation. That was when I met Nina. Tall, broad-shouldered, with warm brown skin and eyes that carried too many sunrises. She sat across from me without asking. She wore a faded blue hoodie and confidence like armor. "First night?" she asked, stirring her oatmeal. I nodded. "Yeah," she sighed. "You've got that look." "What look?" "The one that says, the world just kicked me down the stairs and watched." Despite myself, a small breath of laughter escaped. "Something like that. You'll get used to the noise," she said. "Nobody sleeps easy here." I stared down at my bowl. "I'm not staying. Not for long." Nina smirked. "We all said that. I've been here 6 months." I didn't argue. Hope was fragile in this place. I didn't want to drop mine on the cafeteria floor like a shattered glass. Days blended into a routine. Sweeping floors, folding blankets, helping in the tiny infirmary corner where I checked blood pressure and bandaged minor wounds. My hands remembered the work even when my spirit didn't. The volunteers trusted me quickly. Maybe it was the way I held a stethoscope, or the calmness that slipped back into my voice when I spoke to someone hurt. For the first time since the night I was thrown out, I felt a faint sense of purpose, but fate doesn't wait for you to feel ready. It was a Thursday morning with frost crawling up the windows like pale vines. The shelter buzzed with unusual activity. A food drive, sponsored by a wealthy businessman whose picture I'd seen plastered across billboards around Hawthorne Ridge. Victor Langford. Real estate mogul, philanthropist, a man accustomed to being photographed, shaking hands and cutting ribbons. He arrived with a small team, smiling broadly, taking pictures with volunteers, acting like the shelter was a stage and he its star performer. Then it happened. A scream sliced through the room. I turned just in time to see Victor stumble, gripping his chest. His coffee cup fell and shattered beside his polished shoes. Within seconds, he collapsed to the floor. People backed away, hands over their mouths. Someone cried, "Oh my God, he's having a heart attack." Chaos swallowed the room. Voices blurred. Feet scrambled. But my body moved before my mind caught up. I pushed through the crowd, dropped to my knees and checked for a pulse. Weak. Fading. "Call emergency services." I shouted. No one moved. So I began CPR. My palms pressed down rhythmically, my lungs burning as I counted compressions. A lifetime of medical work guided my hands even as fear clawed at my ribs. "Come on," I whispered. "Stay with me." Minutes stretched cruelly. My arms trembled. My breath hitched. Then a faint gasp. His chest rose. Paramedics burst through the door, taking over as I fell back, shaking and drenched in sweat. As they lifted him onto the stretcher, Victor's eyes opened for a single fragile moment. He looked at me. And in a cracked whisper said, "Don't let them forget kindness." Then he passed out. I didn't know then that those words would follow me all the way to a new life. Victor Langford survived that morning, but his life was slipping away faster than anyone realized. And in his final days, he left behind something meant only for me. Something that would shake the world of everyone who thought I was finished. A month passed after Victor Langford collapsed in that crowded dining hall. The shelter eventually folded the story into its endless stack of tragedies, filed somewhere between. Another overdose and another runaway. Teen. Life here had a way of forgetting things quickly. But I didn't forget. Every morning, while mopping the hallway or organizing medical supplies, I wondered whether Victor even remembered the woman who kept his heart beating long enough for sirens to arrive. A foolish thought, maybe. Rich men forget the small people who lift them. Yet, fate had other plans. It was an icy morning when the world shifted beneath my feet again. The sky outside was the color of bruised steel, and the coffee the kitchen served was thinner than usual. People shuffled around wrapped in blankets, breath ghosting in the cold. I was helping Nina patch up a young man who'd cut his hand on a broken bottle when the shelter's front doors swung open. A man in a tailored black coat stepped inside. Everything about him felt wrong for the shelter, the polished shoes, the leather briefcase, the subtle scent of expensive cologne that didn't belong anywhere near peeling paint and broken heaters. He scanned the room once before, speaking, "I'm looking for a woman named Mara Ellison." The entire room froze. Even the radiator seemed to stop clicking. I stepped forward slowly. "I'm Mara." The man nodded once, his expression unreadable. "My name is Thomas Halley. I represent the Langford estate." The world narrowed to a pinpoint. Victor Langford. The man I saved. The one who whispered. That kindness should never be forgotten. Nina elbowed me softly. "Oh, this is going to be interesting," she whispered. Thomas gestured toward a nearby table, pulling out a seat for me. Nobody at shelters pulls out chairs for anyone. That alone told me what kind of world he came from. "I'm sorry to disturb you here," he began, "but Mr. Langford passed away last week." A tightness wrapped around my chest. I didn't know him, not really. But I knew the fight in his heartbeat, the desperation in his last fragile breath. That creates a strange kind of connection. "I'm sorry to hear that," I murmured. Thomas nodded respectfully before reaching into his briefcase. He withdrew a heavy cream-colored envelope sealed with wax bearing the Langford crest. Thomas nodded respectfully before reaching into his briefcase. He withdrew a heavy cream-colored envelope sealed with wax bearing the Langford crest. "He dictated this letter before his passing," he said, "and he requested it be delivered to you personally." Hands trembling, I broke the seal. The handwriting was shaky but still elegant. "Mara, you didn't know me beyond my name, but you acted without hesitation. In a world where people rush to record tragedy instead of stopping it, you chose compassion. I'm leaving you something. Not charity, gratitude. May this help you return to a life you deserved all along." Victor Langford. I stared at the letter, the words blurring. This can't be for me," I whispered. Thomas opened a leather folder and laid it on the table. Inside were stamped legal documents, signature lines, and a property deed with crisp black lettering. Victor Langford had left me a home. Not a rental. Not temporary shelter. A fully paid-for house in a mountainside development called Silvercrest Ridge. But it didn't end there. Thomas cleared his throat. "There's also a financial component. 5% of Mr. Langford's equity shares are now in your name." My breath caught. 5%. That wasn't gratitude. That was life-changing. The entire cafeteria had gone silent. People stared openly, as if witnessing an angel stepping into a room full of shadows. Nina leaned close and whispered, "Girl, you just got handed a miracle." I didn't feel like it. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. I felt small, undeserving, overwhelmed. In a shelter built from broken pieces. Someone had handed me a future. A future my own family never wanted me to have. But miracles have a way of making enemies, especially the ones who once threw you out into the snow. Because the moment my family learned I had inherited a fortune, they came crawling back. Moving into the house at Silvercrest Ridge felt unreal, like stepping into a life I had only watched other people live. The cabin stood on a rise overlooking a frozen lake. its wooden frame glowing honey gold in the winter sun. It smelled of cedar, fresh paint, and possibility. For the first time in forever, the silence inside a home didn't crush me. It welcomed me. The morning after I moved in, I found a newspaper folded neatly against the front porch. I picked it up absent-mindedly, then froze. There, on the front page, was me. A picture of me at the shelter, still wearing that threadbare coat. Local woman saves philanthropist, inherits property. I stared at the headline until my breath fogged the air. My hands trembled slightly, not from cold but from disbelief. After months of being invisible, the world suddenly remembered I existed. But I didn't know someone else had seen it too. Miles away in Hawthorne Ridge, Elena, the daughter-in-law who had dragged me out of my home, nearly dropped her coffee mug when she saw my face in the newsfeed. "What is this?" she snarled, shoving her phone toward David. He blinked, reading slowly. "Mom inherited a house. And shares." Eleanor's expression twisted, her voice dripping venom. She must have manipulated that dying man. I knew she was playing helpless. David didn't answer. For the first time, shame flickered across his features. But Elena wasn't finished. "We are drowning in debt. David, your mother owes us. All those years of us putting up with her." She jabbed her finger at the screen. "We deserve that money." He hesitated. "Elena." "We threw her out." She spun toward him, rage flaring. "She chose to leave. Don't rewrite history." But even she didn't believe that. Still, desperation does strange things to people. It makes them rewrite the parts of their lives that make them uncomfortable. And so, 2 days later, a black SUV crawled up the snow-covered road toward Silvercrest Ridge, was sitting by the window with a cup of tea when I heard the engine. My stomach dropped. Only one person I knew drove a vehicle like that, and it wasn't a friend. I set my cup down slowly. Elena stepped out first, wearing a beige coat and a smile so fake it glittered. David walked behind her, shoulders hunched, looking like the snow weighed more than his conscience. Elena held a basket wrapped in cellophane, the kind people bring when they want forgiveness, to look like a gift. They walked up the steps. Knock. Knock. Opened the door. Elena's smile brightened. "Mara, darling, look at you. You look wonderful." She extended the basket as if that simple gesture could erase everything. "We thought we'd come check on you." I stepped aside just enough for the cold air to slip between us, but not enough to let them inside. "And you found me," I said softly. David looked at the floor. His voice cracked. "Mom, we just wanted to talk." Elena quickly added, "We care about you." I didn't smile. I simply lifted my eyes toward the wall behind me, the one where I had framed the note. Elena shoved into my suitcase the night she threw me out. "You deserve it." A relic of cruelty. A reminder of survival. Elena's smile faltered. "What is that doing there?" She breathed. "To remember," I said. And before they could speak again, I closed the door. Not a slam. Just a click. The same sound David made the night he shut me out. They didn't stay gone for long. Because when people smell money, they come crawling, begging, and threatening. And the next time I opened the door, I didn't just let them see the house. I let them see the truth. They returned 3 days later, not with humility, not with truth, but with desperation dressed as affection. This time. I opened the door before they could knock. The sky outside was unusually clear, the kind of cold blue that almost looks honest. Elena looked anything but. She wore a designer emerald coat, her makeup flawless, her smile stretched so tight it seemed ready to snap. David stood beside her, hands shoved into his pockets, shoulders folding inward. "Come in," I said quietly. That startled them. They expected resistance, a fight, a lecture. They didn't expect an invitation. The dining table was set. 2 bowls of steaming soup, warm bread, a pot of stew simmering softly. Not forgiveness, hospitality. And like every kindness offered to the wrong people, it unsettled them deeply. Elena slid into her seat, crossing her legs like a queen taking her throne. David hovered before finally sitting down. "You've really fixed this place up," David said, eyes darting around. "It feels cozy." Elena shot him a look that silently warned, "Stick to the plan." Then she turned to me, voice dripping with sugar. "Mara, we've missed you. The house hasn't felt the same without your warmth." I poured soup into their bowls, the steam rising between us like a barrier. "Elena," I said calmly, "I brought something for you." Her eyebrows lifted. "Oh? A gift?" "In a way." I reached into a drawer and pulled out a small wooden frame. I set it gently in the center of the table. Inside it, behind the glass, was the note she'd shoved into my suitcase the night they dragged me out. "You deserve it." Elena froze. The carefully curated smile drained from her face like spilled ink. "Oh," she stammered, waving a hand weakly. That was a joke. A stupid joke. You took it too seriously." "Did I?" I asked softly. David closed his eyes. His spoon stopped halfway to his mouth. Elena cleared her throat. "Well, the past is the past," she said, forcing another smile. "What matters now is family. We want to reconnect." I took a slow sip of my soup. "Reconnect," I repeated. "After you threw me out in a snowstorm." David swallowed hard. "Mum, Elena wasn't thinking straight." We were overwhelmed. "I was overwhelmed too," I said. "But I didn't abandon anyone." Eleanor's face twitched. "Don't you dare twist this," she snapped. "We helped you for years. We fed you, sheltered you. You took my pension money," I corrected. "My savings, my dignity." David looked up sharply, guilt spreading across his features. "But Elena, oh," she refused to break. Her voice sharpened to a blade. "So now you think you're better than us, because some dying millionaire felt sorry for you?" I looked her dead in the eye. "No," I said quietly. "I'm not better. I'm free. There's a difference." Her jaw tightened. "You ingrate." I smiled faintly. "That word fits you better than me." The silence that followed cut through the room like ice. David finally stood. "Elena, let's go." And the next time they returned, they didn't come for forgiveness. They came for a fight, one that would spread far beyond my doorstep. After the confrontation at the cafe door, something in me shifted, not out of anger, but out of clarity. Their bitterness, their desperation, their attempts to claw back what they'd thrown away. It no longer had a place in my life. My life was finally mine. And I wanted to build something meaningful with it. For days, Victor Langford's letter sat on my nightstand, the ink slightly smudged from where my fingers had traced the words again and again. "You deserve a home." Those words battled with the older ones burned into my memory. The ones Elena had tossed at me like garbage. "You deserve it." 2 sentences. Same structure. Opposite intentions. I knew which one I wanted to shape my future around. That realization sparked a new idea, one that terrified and energized me in the same breath. One morning, after a night of restless thinking, I folded both notes into my pocket and walked down to an abandoned warehouse near the edge of Hawthorne Ridge. The building was crumbling, its red bricks chipped, its windows coated in years of dust. Most people saw a ruin. But I saw possibility. Nina thought I'd lost my mind. You want to buy this place? She asked, stepping carefully over a broken floorboard. Mara, sweetheart, this building is older than my patience. I smiled. Maybe, but it has space. And people like us? We don't get space unless we make it ourselves. She crossed her arms, narrowing her eyes in suspicion and admiration. Okay, I'm listening. I took a deep breath. I want to build a place for women like me. The forgotten, the thrown away, the invisible. A cafe where they can work, learn, rest. Maybe even live while they get back on their feet. Nina's brows shot up. A shelter cafe? Yes, I said. A place that won't turn people away because they don't have family, or money, or a last name that matters. She exhaled, a slow smile spreading across her face. Well then, she said, let's build it. Construction wasn't easy. The old warehouse fought back, every pipe, every wall, every creaky beam reminding us that rebirth isn't always graceful. But with Victor's inheritance funding the project, and volunteers from the town, especially those who remembered what I'd done for him, the transformation began. Brick by brick, brushstroke by BRUSHSTROKE. And 3 months later, the doors opened with a hand-painted sign above them. The shelter house. It was more beautiful than I could have imagined. Warm lights. Second-hand furniture polished to shine. Shelves stacked with donated books. A corner with soft blankets and spare jackets. Tables where no one ate alone. The world outside moved fast. Inside, it breathed. We hung one thing on the central wall. The framed note from Elena. You deserve it. Below it, I placed a brass plaque. They said I deserved nothing. So I built something from it. People stopped to read it every day. Some cried. Some smiled. Some simply nodded in understanding. Ruth, a soft-spoken woman with trembling hands, found her first job here. Miriam, a runaway grandmother with nowhere to go, slept on the spare cot until she could rent a small studio. Teen girls came for tutoring. Women escaping abusive homes came for a hot meal. We didn't ask for their stories. We gave them space to rewrite them. The media eventually caught wind. A young reporter arrived with a camera crew, her voice shaky from nerves. Mrs. Ellison, she asked, why build something like this? Why now? I looked around at the bustling cafe, at Nina whipping lattes like a champion, at the women laughing softly over bowls of soup. Because people like me shouldn't have to start from nothing twice. I said. She hesitated before asking the question everyone wondered. Do you forgive your family? That answer came easily. Forgiveness, I said calmly, is a room I no longer live in. The story aired that night. Donations poured in. Volunteers lined up at dawn. The shelter house became more than a place. It became a movement. And for the first time since the snowstorm night, I didn't feel like a burden. I felt necessary. Just when the world finally embraced what I'd built, my past came walking through the cafe doors one last time. Not for revenge, not for forgiveness, but because someone else needed saving, just like I once did. The shelter house had grown into something I never dreamed possible. A place overflowing with warmth, chatter, and the soft hum of healing. Some mornings, I'd stand by the window with a cup of tea and watch women walk in with heavy shoulders and leave standing just a little bit taller. I thought, the past had finally loosened its grip on me. But the past has a habit of arriving uninvited. It happened on an early winter morning, the kind where the frost painted white feathers across the windows. The cafe was already busy. Laughter echoed off the warm, honey-colored walls. Nina was at the espresso machine, humming off key. Life felt Gentle dot, then the door opened. A woman stepped inside, bundled in an oversized coat 2 sizes too big. She moved slowly, her hands trembling as she clutched a crumpled piece of paper. She paused at the doorway, scanning the room like she wasn't sure if she belonged. Nina noticed her first. "Hi there, love. Come warm up." But the woman's eyes were locked on me. She approached the counter hesitantly, fingers shaking as she unfolded the wrinkled paper. I recognized the shape before I even saw the words. My breath caught. It was a note. A cruel one. The kind that shatters someone's dignity in 3 simple words. "Is this the place?" she whispered, voice quivering. I took the paper from her gently and read the scribbled message. "You deserve nothing." A punch disguised as a sentence. The same kind of weapon Elena once used on me. I swallowed the ache in my throat and reached for the woman's hand. "What's your name?" I asked softly. "Margaret," she whispered. They left this for me when they kicked me out. I didn't know where else to go." Her chin trembled. "Someone told me you might understand." "Understand?" I understood too well. I led her to a seat near the window. Nina brought over a steaming cup of coffee. Dark, rich, warming. Margaret wrapped her hands around it, like it was her first bit of warmth in weeks. "You're safe now," I said softly. Her eyes glistened. "Do you really think I deserve more than this?" She held up the crumpled note, as if it were a verdict on her entire life. I sat beside her. "Listen to me carefully," I said. "You don't have to be grateful for surviving. You just have to keep going." She blinked rapidly as if absorbing every word around us. The cafe hummed with gentle sounds. Dishes clinking, soft chatter, the steady rhythm of life continuing. For a moment, I felt something shift inside me. A warm echo of the healing I'd once needed myself. When Margaret finished her drink, she looked lighter, steadier, like her soul had taken one full breath for the first time in days. "You can stay as long as you need," I told her. "And when you're ready, we'll help you find your footing again." "Thank you," she whispered. "Really, thank you." Later, after she'd settled into the lounge with a donated blanket around her shoulders, I walked back to the counter. Luis polished silverware nearby. Nina wiped down tables. Life went on. But I paused in front of the frame on the wall, the one holding Eleanor's old note. "You deserve it." The words had followed me through snow, shelters, grief, and rebirth. But now, staring at Margaret and the dozens of women who walked into the shelter house every week, I understood something new. That note wasn't the end of anything. It was the beginning. I touched the glass gently, a quiet promise forming inside my chest. "We're not here to deserve anything," I whispered to myself. "We're here because we survived." The door chimed again. Another woman entering, another story waiting, another life on the brink of change. And I was ready, because I had become what I once needed: a shelter, a light in the cold, a reminder that dignity can grow even from the bleakest winter. This wasn't revenge. It wasn't triumph. It was legacy. If you like my story, please like this video. Subscribe channel and comment below what kind of story you like. I will find for you real stories.